Today is Tuesday, May 20th. We're talking about the Supreme Court's latest order that could pave the way for hundreds of thousands more deportations. Also, conversations with some of the most influential people in the world, what came out of President Trump's call with Russian President Putin, and Vice President Vance's meeting with the new Pope. Plus, why the U.S. government may start investigating celebrities, what new changes are coming to Sesame Street, and which iconic movie lines were actually improvised. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. President Trump's immigration crackdown got a win from the U.S. Supreme Court. The High Court's latest order says the Trump administration can go ahead and remove deportation protections from nearly 350,000 Venezuelan immigrants, at least for now. They had been allowed to live and work here under a program known as temporary protection status until this past February, when the Homeland Security Department decided to end the protections. The move was challenged in court, and a lower court told the Trump administration to honor the protections, at least while the challenge played out. Well, now the U.S. Supreme Court says the Venezuelans can lose their status even while the case makes its way through the legal system. The justices did not give any reasoning, but a lawyer for the Venezuelan migrants said the order amounts to the single largest action in modern American history to take away a group's immigration status. On the other side, Homeland Security called the decision a, quote, win for the American people and the safety of our communities. The Trump administration has also moved to take away temporary protection status from some migrants from Haiti, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. President Trump is on a mission to negotiate a ceasefire in Russia's war in Ukraine. But unlike other Western leaders, he's not pressuring Russia to stop fighting immediately, just to come to the negotiating table. To that end, he spoke for more than 2 hours with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and on that call, they agreed to start talks toward future peace. Trump also had calls with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and other European leaders, after which the Europeans decided to up the pressure on Russia through sanctions. But President Trump says he's not quite ready to make that move and is hoping to instead entice Russia with potential trade deals and economic investment. Trump also repeated that he could just back out of the process altogether, saying, quote, this is not my war. Though for now, he's optimistic, and talking in any form is progress after 3 years of fighting. Meanwhile, that war is continuing. In fact, earlier this week, Russia launched its largest drone strike of the whole war on Ukrainian cities. At this point, Russia's forces now control a fifth of Ukraine and are advancing. Stay tuned. Vice President Vance visited the new Pope Leo at the Vatican. He handed the pontiff a letter from President Trump inviting him to visit the White House as soon as he can. The Pope reportedly said he would at some point. The meeting happened behind closed doors, but the Vatican says they spoke about international issues. Reports say they also touched on religious freedom and cooperation between church and state. And there was the customary exchange of gifts. Vance handed Pope Leo a Chicago Bears jersey with his name on the back, as well as 2 books. In return, the Pope gave the VP a bronze sculpture with the inscription, "Peace is a fragile flower," written in Italian. The U.S. government is reportedly set to pay nearly $5 million to the family of a woman who rioted at the U.S. Capitol. Ashley Babbitt was a Trump supporter who was shot and killed by police when she tried to storm the House Speaker's lobby during the January 6th attack. The officer who shot her was cleared of wrongdoing since the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. concluded he acted in self-defense and in the defense of lawmakers. But Babbitt's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, arguing that she was unarmed and that the officer failed to de-escalate the situation. Either way, several news outlets like the Washington Post and AP now say the Justice Department has reached a settlement with the Babbitt family. In response, the outgoing chief of the U.S. Capitol Police issued an unusual public statement criticizing the apparent settlement, saying, quote, this settlement sends a chilling message to law enforcement nationwide. Though so far, no comment from the DOJ, and the final agreement has not been signed yet. People from Texas to Kentucky are still cleaning up from several days of severe storms while facing new threats. There were hundreds of severe weather reports yesterday, and at least 4 tornadoes were confirmed in Oklahoma and Nebraska last night. The storms destroyed several homes and an Oklahoma fire station. That comes on top of earlier storms that killed more than 24 people and destroyed thousands of homes and businesses, mostly in Missouri and Kentucky. And the threats continue for the central U.S. this morning. As we publish this episode, tornado warnings are still in effect in parts of Missouri and Illinois. Later today, the risk of severe weather moves east into Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, and Tennessee. It could bring large hail, damaging winds, and a few strong tornadoes. A much larger area from as far south as Shreveport, Louisiana, up through Chicago, Illinois, and as far east as Charlotte, North Carolina, could get heavy rain. Tomorrow, the worst of it is expected to be over. We have more news for you in just a moment, but first, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I think the world is a better place when people are healthy and happy, and not just for those people, but also for how they treat others at home, at work, and inside their communities. And it's why I think it's important that people know it's okay, even necessary, to get the support they need to feel good about themselves and about their lives. We've come a long way in terms of people knowing therapy is helpful and normal, and there's less of a stigma today than there used to be. So I hope that trend continues. I know from personal experience that therapy can help for a variety of reasons. Without therapy, I was probably faster to react to somebody in a negative way, or I was faster to burn out, which then affected my work. The list goes on. And now I have more skills to handle all sorts of situations better. If you want to give therapy a try, BetterHelp is an option that is fully online with over 10 years of experience matching people with therapists. And you can switch therapists at any time to find the one that's right for you. We're all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. Now, back to the news. Sesame Street has found a new home. Netflix reached an agreement to broadcast new episodes of the beloved children's show, along with 90 hours of previous episodes. The nonprofit organization that produces the show, Sesame Workshop, says new episodes will also air on PBS stations and PBS Kids the same day they debut on Netflix. PBS has broadcast Sesame Street for more than 50 years. But under the last deal the show had with Warner Brothers Discovery, PBS could only show new episodes months after they aired on HBO. Warner Brothers Discovery had said last year it would not renew its deal, leaving the show in limbo. And Sesame Workshop has been struggling, telling staff it would have to downsize significantly, citing the end of the HBO deal and the loss of federal money. So this Netflix deal is seen as a lifeline. New episodes on Netflix will feature some new segments and format changes, including new 11-minute storylines driving each episode. There will also be a new animated segment about the apartment building where Elmo and Cookie Monster live. Financial terms of the deal were not made public. President Trump is calling for a major investigation into top celebrities like Beyoncé, Bruce Springsteen, and Oprah Winfrey. One thing they all have in common is they publicly endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris in the last election cycle. Well, now Trump accuses the Harris camp of paying the celebrities to support her at campaign events, calling it, quote, an illegal election scam at the highest level. To be clear, campaign finance disclosures do show the Harris campaign paid production companies that are linked to people like Winfrey, Springsteen, and Beyoncé. But the celebs and their reps say the payments were only for production costs associated with the events they were in, and that they didn't take any personal fees. And the Federal Election Commission actually requires campaigns to pay fair market value for the costs of holding events. But the president has also criticized other stars who endorsed Harris, even when they did not appear at her rallies. For example, he wrote on Truth Social recently, quote, "Has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot?" Other celebrities who endorsed Harris include Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Ricky Martin, Megan Thee Stallion, LeBron James, Arnold Schwarzenegger, George Clooney, and more. On the other side, Trump has the backing of other stars like Kid Rock, Billy Ray Cyrus, Mel Gibson, Jon Voight, and more. Remember how we told you 23andMe had filed for bankruptcy? Well, now the genetic testing company has found a buyer. Pharmaceutical giant Regeneron is acquiring 23andMe's genomic service and its bank of 15 million customers' personal and genetic data. The company says it plans to use that customer data to help with drug discovery. But it promised to prioritize the privacy, security, and ethical use of the data. All this is a big turnaround from 2021, when 23andMe was valued at around $6 billion. Flash forward a few years, and it's been bought out for $256 million. A bankruptcy court still needs to sign off and is set to consider the acquisition next month. A mystery involving a rock and roll icon has finally been solved by chance. A sculpture stolen off Jim Morrison's grave in Paris was found. The iconic frontman of The Doors was buried in the French capital after his death there in 1971 at just 27 years old. But the sculpture that depicted the singer's likeness has been missing since 1988. Then, last week, authorities say it was found by chance during a police search for an unrelated fraud case. It didn't appear damaged beyond the graffiti and its broken nose, which were already there when it went missing. Though officials haven't said yet whether it will be returned to Morrison's grave. Even without the sculpture, the site has been a magnet for fans. In fact, it's perhaps the world's most visited resting place of any musician. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, thanks to our sponsor, Skims. As a mom and someone who works from home, I always appreciate high-quality tees. They are a wardrobe essential for me. I love them because I can dress them up or down and feel confident and comfortable no matter what I'm doing. But finding that perfect fit and feel can be a challenge. And yet, Skims seems to hit the mark every time. You've heard me talk about Skims tees before because I love them, and now my most recent get is the cotton jersey long sleeve t-shirt. I wore it the other day, and once again, I get the hype. There are so many dupes online, but nothing compares to the real thing. Other long sleeves ride up or bunch at the waist, but this one stays put. And as always, Skims comes through with how the tee feels flattering on, and it just has a great fit and quality overall. I still wear their short sleeve tees all the time. See for yourself when you shop Skims t-shirt shop at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you, select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select our show, The Newsworthy, in the drop-down menu that follows. Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. And today's trivia question is, what animal has a tongue twice the length of its body? Listen again next Tuesday for the answer and explanation. As for last week's trivia question, what famous line from the movie Taxi Driver was not in the script? The answer is, you talking to me? Yep, the script just calls for Robert De Niro's character to talk to himself in the mirror. He went with, you talking to me. And now it's the most memorable piece of dialogue in the whole movie. But it's not the only iconic movie line that wasn't actually in the original script. For example, Jack Nicholson ad-libbed, you can't handle the truth in A Few Good Men, and here's Johnny in The Shining. Humphrey Bogart came up with, here's looking at you, kid, in Casablanca. And on Dazed and Confused, Matthew McConaughey took it upon himself to say, all right, all right, all right. Other iconic lines were improvised in classic movies like The Godfather, Star Wars, Jaws, Titanic, Die Hard, and more. Well, thank you so much for joining us to get caught up on the news today. You can further support our work and get access to ad-free episodes by becoming a Newsworthy Insider. Start your free trial at thenewsworthy.com/insider. And Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to episodes of The Newsworthy ad-free in the Wondery app. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news to know. Until then, have a great day.